Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the cycle of abuse. A lot of people wonder, how does someone get into an abusive relationship? Or why don't the victims leave? Why don't the victims just walk away? It's really not that simple. So let me explain a little bit about the typical cycle that you might see in these types of relationships. Many times people are in them and don't even realize. I heard the analogy once that if you put a frog in a pot of water to boil it, the frog doesn't know you're boiling it. He's swimming along just happy as can be. And if you slowly warm the water up, at first he's like, oh, it's nice and toasty in here. And by the time he realizes that he's actually being cooked alive, it's far too late. He's too hot, he's out of energy, and it's impossible for him to climb or hop his way out of the pot. Abuse is kind of like that. It starts out really slow and subtle, and you become more and more tolerant of the abuse, and then when it gets really bad, being punched in the face, for example, it's already too late to get out in some ways. So I want to start out the cycle with the honeymoon phase. In the beginning of an abusive relationship, it's not bad. In fact, it's probably the best relationship you've ever been in your life. You think the partner is perfect. Wow, they say and do all the right things, and they're just so sweet and complimentary and overly affectionate and generous with their time and generous with their gifts, maybe money even. Maybe they bring you flowers regularly, they take you to nice dinners, they wine and dine you, they fly you somewhere exotic. They really go way beyond the typical relationship most of the time. They love bomb you. They overwhelm you with love and expressions of love in different ways to just win you over and to kind of blind you to what's going to come next. When it seems like, oh, this is perfect, maybe this is too good to be true. It probably is too good to be true, and it's probably just an illusion. Pay attention to that when you have that thought or that feeling in the beginning of a relationship. So it starts out really, really good, and then slowly they make little comments, backhanded compliments. They start to criticize you. They start to belittle you, devalue, demean you in small ways, just here and there. If you call them out on it, they're like, I was just joking. You're so sensitive. I didn't mean that. And it builds. The more you tolerate and the longer you stay is the worse it gets, until then they are calling you out of your name. They're cursing you out. They're telling you that you're the worst person they've ever met. They become verbally abusive. And that continues to escalate, sometimes into physical violence, but probably not the first time around in the cycle. Because once they have what's called an acute explosion, where they throw things, they destroy property, they use a weapon, they make threats, they pitch a fit either verbally or physically in some way, and what they do is they assert their dominance, and they let you know, if you try to come against me, you're in danger. And even if they never lay a hand on you, just that is enough to gain control in the relationship if you stay. Just the threat of that, just the hint of violence is enough. It's already an abusive relationship. They have the acute explosion later on, a few hours later, maybe the next day, maybe the next week. But sometime after they're repentant, they're sorry, they apologize. Please give them another chance. They didn't mean any of those things they said. They didn't mean to do that. They just lost control. They had a bad day. Whatever. They'll have plenty of excuses. They're tired, they're hungry. They lost their job, whatever. They're going to apologize, and they're going to promise to never do it again, and then you're going to start the cycle over, and you're going to go into the honeymoon phase. And the honeymoon phase is similar to the love bombing. Lots of grand gestures. They're sweet, they're kind, they're the perfect partner again, almost. You see the crack in the facade at this point, but hey, they bounce back really well, and they try to make it up to you in various ways. This might mean they buy you some jewelry, or they buy you extra flowers, or do something that you've been asking them to do. But they do something to make it up to you, and it's really hard not to give them a second chance at this point. So you start to kind of justify and make excuses in your mind. And then when they start going into the next phase, the tension building, and they start to drop the critical and demeaning and devaluing comments again, you're ready. You're ready to try to keep them calm. And so you just go into nurturing and people pleasing and pacifying, and you're just doing everything you can to try to keep them from getting upset because you don't want another acute explosion. See, you're already programmed. You don't even realize it. So then you're walking on eggshells and you're going above and beyond, and you're trying to do everything just the way you know they like it, not to give them anything to criticize you about. But before you know it, no matter what you do, because you can't ever be perfect or good enough, you're going to have another acute explosion. But this time it's going to escalate even further than the time before. And this time you may call for help. You may go to your family. You may call the police. But they're going to turn right around and apologize and try to make it up to you, and they'll never do it again. And maybe you'll even tell the police, never mind, I'm not going to press charges. Tell your family, your friends, it's okay, he's really sorry. I'm going to give him another chance. And you start all over again. And each time this cycle completes, it escalates, and it completes a little faster and a little faster and a little faster. And unfortunately, this cycle is what keeps victims stuck, and unfortunately many times they don't survive it. They never make it out alive, because the most dangerous time for a victim of abuse is when they try to leave and get out. So here's an example of the cycle of abuse and why people get caught up in it and they don't leave. So try to have a little more compassion the next time you meet someone in this kind of cycle. And if you yourself find that some of these things fit the relationship that you're in, talk to a therapist and decide if the relationship is safe for you to remain in or not.